Okay, so the next lesson is lesson 2. This is ratios. So the first lesson was factors and multiples, so we're going to use that to now move into ratios. So, like I said before, always on the first page, we always either have vocabulary startup or a real world link. So here we have a real world link today. So in her dog walking business, Mrs. DeCarbo walks 2 large dogs and 8 small dogs. So we're going to compare the number of dogs to large dogs, and they want you to use yellow counters and large counters. So all you have to do is, since we don't have any counters available, we're just going to draw circles. So if you look, so we're going to look at small dogs to large dogs. So yellow counters for the large dogs, so we're just going to do a circle. We're not going to fill it in. So there's 8 small dogs, 2 large dogs. So 2 large dogs. Now we're going to use red counters, so I'm just going to do a circle, basically a dot. I'm going to fill it in. So we have 8 small dogs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so down here, if you look, 2 plus what equals 8? Well, 6. You guys know that. Okay, so there are 6 more small dogs than large dogs. Well, you can look at that. You take 2 away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the next one is 2 times what equals 8? Well, that would be 4. So there are 4 times as many small dogs as large dogs. All right, number 3, 8 minus what equals 2? Well, 8 minus 6. So there are 6 fewer large dogs than small dogs. Okay, number 4, 8 divided by what equals 2? Well, 8 divided by 4. So the number of large dogs is not 4, 1/4 the number of small dogs. Okay, it's 1/4 the size or the number of small dogs. Okay, it's an actual fraction because we divided there. Now, we're going to go ahead and go on to the next page, where we're going to start with putting ratios in simplest form. So it's like reducing a fraction. So you guys have done that for years now. So all we're doing is actually reducing fractions in this, basically. So to begin, there are many different ways to compare amounts or quantities. A ratio is a comparison of 2 quantities by division. So a ratio of 2 red paper clips to 6 blue paper clips can be written in 3 different ways. So you could write it like this: 2 to 6. Okay, or this is read as 2 to 6. Same thing. And this is read as 2 to 6. They're all read the same way, but there's 3 different ways to write them. Okay, it does not matter which way you use. Most of the time you're going to see the fraction way because we deal with fractions a lot. Or you'll see this method, or I mean, they'll even use both. They'll use all 3 methods in the book, but you will see mainly just the fraction one. So as with fractions, ratios are often expressed in simplest form. That's why I said we're basically reducing fractions today. So on example number 1, they want us to write this ratio in simplest form, comparing the number of red paper clips. So we need to underline that to the number of blue paper clips. Okay, when you are writing a fraction, whatever they state first goes in the numerator, the top. Okay, so since it's red, we're going to go with 2 on top. So 2 on top. Now we have to count up the blue. Now the second, so it says number of red paper clips, 2. So whenever you see 2, whatever comes in front of it like this, that goes in your numerator. Whatever comes after 2, that would be your denominator. So we're going to count the blues now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 2 to 6. Okay, but they want this in simplest form. So we have to simplify this and put it in simplest form. So to do that, just like with fractions, you got to figure out what both of these are divisible by to get them as low as you can. Well, 2 is the smallest number and 2 is a prime, so the only thing that 2 is divisible by is itself. So we're going to divide by 2. Whatever you do at the top, you got to do the bottom. So 2 divided by 2, well, that's 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the correct simplified ratio is 1 to 3. Okay, and you can write it as 1 to 3, 1 to 3, or 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's 3 different ways to write it. Okay, We're going to go ahead and skip letter A for right now. We're going to jump over a couple pages, just like we did in lesson 1. Okay, so on page 23, okay, we're going to do number 1. So they want you to write each ratio as a fraction in simplest form. Then we're going to explain it. Okay, so if you look, flutes to drums. So we got to list the flutes first. Okay, so 4, and then how many drums? 2. Okay, so if we reduce this, this is going to be divisible by 2. So that would be 2 to 1. Now, what does that mean? It's weird not being able to ask you guys this. So 2 to 1 means there's 2 flutes for every 1 drum. That's how you explain that. So there's 2 flutes for every 1 drum. So every time you have 2 flutes, you're getting a drum with it. Okay, let's do number 2. Same thing. So we're doing fraction in simplest form, and then explaining the meaning. So we have sandwiches to milk cartons. You have to look at this part first, because if you do milk cartons first, it's going to be wrong. It's got to be the sandwiches first. So sandwiches go first. So we have 4. So 4 goes in the numerator. Now we go with the milk cartons, that goes in our denominator at the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this isn't like this one where we could just divide by 2. Now we got to figure out what we're actually dividing by here, which, after I just said that, is actually going to be 2. So 4 divided by 2, 10 divided by 2. So we get 2 to 5. So what this means is, for every 2 sandwiches, there are 5 milk cartons. So for every 2 sandwiches they give out, or whatever, there are 5 milks. So 2 to 5. That's how you explain ratios. That's how you set them up. Okay? So what I want you guys to do now is you guys are going to go back to page 20, and you are going to do letter A on your own. So I want you to pause this, do letter A in your book, and then we will go through them. Okay, now that you've paused it, you've completed the video, or completed the problem, we're going to do it together now. So it says, write the ratio in simplest form that compares the number of suns to the number of moons, and then explains meaning. So suns has to go first. And we're writing it as a fraction because we got to put it in simplest form. So we have 4 suns compared to 6 moons. Okay, first things first, we have to put this in simplest form. So you got to decide what you can divide out of both 4 and 6. So I'm going to divide the 2 out. So we have 2 to 3. That is simplest form because those are both prime. It can't go any further than that. So to explain this, we're going to say for every 2 suns, there is 3 moons. And that's how you explain it. So this is part 1. This is part 2. Okay, you got to have all of that for it to be correct. So simplest form, then explain it. So put your ratio in your fraction form and then explain it. Alright, so we're going to move on to page 21 now. This is example number 2. Okay, so we're going to use ratios to basically compare data. That's all they want you to do here. So they're going to give you tables, and they want you to put it in simplest form and compare the data. So example number 2. It says several students named their favorite flavor of gum. It says write the ratio that compares the number who chose fruit to the total number of students. So that's what you got to remember here. We're not doing all of them. We're doing one part. So fruit to the total number of students. So if you look, fruit has 3. Okay, so we have 3. That's going to be my numerator because that comes first. Now we have to look at the total number of students. Well, that's not stated. So you got to remember, when it has a table like this, you're going to have to add all of them up to figure out how many people there were. So we're going to do 9 plus 8 plus 3 plus 1. Okay, so that gives us 21 altogether. Okay, so this would be fruit. This is the total number, total students. Okay, now we have to simplify this. So just like we did on the greatest common factors, okay, we're looking at 3 and 21. What can we simplify out of this? So the greatest common factor of those two is 3. So we're going to divide the 3 out. So that becomes 1 to 7. So that means, so 1 out of every 7 students prefers fruit flavored gum. So 1 out of 7 students in this problem prefer fruit flavored gum. Okay, so all you're doing is simplifying it, and then that's how you explain it. Just like before. All we're doing is simplifying ratios. So now example number 3. Okay, so Monday's yogurt sales are recorded in the table. Write the ratio that compares the sales of strawberry yogurt to the total sales. So first off, we're looking at strawberry and we're looking at the total. So I'm just going to write that down so I remember. So strawberry is 8. Okay, so 8 sold for strawberries. Now we got to find the total. So to do that, we're going to add them all up. So 3 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. Okay, when you add those all up, you get 24. Okay, so then that says strawberry goes on top because that's what was stated first, and then the total sold, which would be 24. Okay, if we look, the greatest common factor of 8 and 24, that would be 8. So we're going to divide each of these by 8. So we get 1 to 3, or 1 to 3. Remember, there's multiple ways of writing these ratios. So what this means, what this ratio means for this problem, is that so 1 out of every 3 yogurt cups sold were strawberry. So every time they sold 3 cups of yogurt, at least one of those was a strawberry. Okay, so that's how ratios work in the real world. Okay, we're going to skip letter B for now. We're going to go back to page 11. Or, 23, sorry. I don't know where I got 11. Okay, so, number 3 here. It says, a class has 6 boys and 15 girls. What is the ratio of boys to girls? And this needs to be simplified. They're always simplified. Ratios are always simplified. So 6 boys, I'm just going to write that up there so we remember, 15 girls. Okay, now we have to figure out if this can be simplified. So we got to look at 6 and 15. What do they have in common? What can we divide out both of those? Well, 3. So we're going to divide a 3 out of both top and bottom. So that would be 2 to 5. Which means for every 2 boys, there is 5 girls. So in that class, for every 2 boys that are in the class, there's 5 girls. Okay? So then let's do number 4. The table shows the number of books Salvador has read. Find the ratio of mystery books to the total. Guys, if you need to, underline them. It'll make you remember. It's just visual. It's right there in front of you. So we're going to start with the mystery books. So mystery books, if you look at the table, it has 10. So the number of books would be 10 for mystery. So 10 goes on top, because that's mystery. Now we got to find the total. So to do that, you got to add these all up. Okay, so that would be 24. Alright, so now we have to simplify this. So we gotta look at 10 and 24. What we can take out, well, that's gonna be 2. So you get 5 to 12. So now we explain this meaning. So for every 5 mystery, so 5 out of 12 books was mystery. That's how you gotta work this one, sorry. 5 out of the 12 books that Salvador has read was mystery. So for every 12 books that he's read total, 5 of those were mystery. That's what that ratio represents. Okay, so now I want you guys to go back and I want you to do letter B on your own. So this is where you're gonna pause the video and then you're going to do letter B in your book and then come back to the video and we're gonna explain it. So now that you're back, let's go through it. A pet store sold the animals listed in the table in 1 week. Write the ratios of cats to pets sold that week, then explain its meaning. So if you look, we're talking about cats to the total number sold of pets that week. Okay, so cats, first off, is 8. So we're gonna start there. Okay, the total amount, we gotta add these all up. Okay, so that's gonna be 32. So we have 8 cats, 32 total. That's our ratio. Okay, now we have to simplify this. So what can you take out of both of these? Well, 8 itself. So that would be 1 to 4. So what that means is, so 1 out of 4 pets sold was a cat. So what that means is, out of 4 pets, one out of those 4 pets that were sold was a cat. Okay, so if you guys have any questions on these, I will be available from Tuesday and Friday, and we're going to be doing a live Q&A. So if you guys get stuck on any of this stuff, that's when you need to get logged on. Okay, from 9 to 10, we're going to do a live Q&A where you guys can ask questions if you get stuck. Okay, the other one you might see is so Katie wants to divide her 30 flowers into two groups so that the ratio is 2 to 3. So if you have a problem like this, okay, step 1, they want you to use a bar diagram. Okay, so that would be 2 to 3. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. Okay, so 30 flowers. We had to do 5 of them. 2 sections, 3 sections. So there are 5 equal sections. So each section represents 30 divided by 5, or 6 flowers. Okay, so there's going to be 12 in one group, and 18 in the other. 2 groups, 3 groups. It was just breaking it down for you. It's just another way to do ratios. If you guys want, you guys can go ahead and do the guided practice as well. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just more work. So if you did the pens and pencils, you have to pay attention. Whatever comes first goes up top of the ratio. Whatever comes second is always the bottom of the ratio, the denominator. Okay? Pennies first, dimes second. So if you did this one, pennies would be 3 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3 to 9. But you need the simplest form and then explain the meaning. Okay, so I kind of gave you that one there, so you guys get a freebie. Okay, this will go along with your IXL. This will be in your Google Classroom, so you will need to pull up the IXL as well, because there's a couple that go along with this lesson with ratios.